So before I kick off, I would love for you all to introduce yourself. Just in the chat, just let me know who you are, what your name is, what you do, as in self-employed, employed, student, graduate, looking for a career change. And most importantly, how has this year been for you, right? I posted on LinkedIn this morning saying this time last year, companies weren't even adapting. I was told with my own employer that I couldn't work from home. Tech wasn't taking over. And today it was announced that in New Zealand, Unilever are doing a 1-year trial for a 4-day working week. Research has shown us that 4-day working weeks increase your productivity, they increase your happiness, they decrease your stress. And so though we can't necessarily pledge for a 4-day working week, what I do want to discuss today and really openly is, how do we switch off to switch on? How do we mitigate our burnout? How do we make sure that we are in a position where we're possibly not feeling the stress, where we are supporting each other to grow? For me, it's really important that we discuss these topics: mental health, resilience, and making sure that we don't burn out. What can we start doing right now as we've hit December? And also, what can we take into our future and make sure that we start 2021 fresh, active, ready to approach the year with a new mindset? Today is very much going to be an interactive discussion, if you'd allow it to be. I don't want to talk at you. I don't think that's very productive, but I definitely want to probe some mindset shifts, some kind of thoughts, some questions that possibly you can answer, and we can help direct the conversation. So Jen, lovely to meet you. Self-employed, a good year, but uncomfortably busy, finding it hard to unwind. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Whilst you're introducing yourself, I also want you all to start putting in your LinkedIn, or to start putting in your social media handles. Online virtual networking and online discussions are just as important as offline networking. And especially if you're here for the same or similar reasons, it's how can you be or become each other's accountability and buddies. So a little bit about me before we kick off. My name is Sonya Barlow. I started my career in 2015. And in 2018, I realized I really wasn't having that much fun. But most importantly, I didn't have a sense of community, and I didn't take any of my holidays for the first year in my corporate world, thinking, oh, actually, they're going to tell me off. And I just didn't have anyone to talk to. So I founded a brunch club called the LMF Network. Back then, it was like-minded females. Ironically, no one showed up to brunch. But what that did create, and it's still creating, is a global community to support, upskill, and bridge the skills gap. Fundamentally, we are here to support you, to comfort you, to enable and empower you to be your best self. Today is Giving Tuesday. So we just released our kind of LinkedIn post to say, it's Giving Tuesday. If you could donate, if you could sponsor, if you can give some time, that would be great. We're a not-for-profit charity organization with over 30,000 and following, a chapter in London, Toronto, and our first university society, fundamentally founded to help you be your best self. Alongside that, I'm a 2-time Tedx speaker, a diversity consultant, a mental health advocate, and next year I will be a published author. And here are some of the clients I've worked with. Why this conversation is so important to me? Well, there's 3 reasons. One is because in my first job, so this only 5 years ago, I remember I was off sick for 3 days. And the week later, so the week after, I actually had some days off. I remember going into the office after I was off sick, and my manager took me to the side and said, I'm not telling you what to do, but you haven't been to work for 3 days and there's a lot of admin to catch up on. So my suggestion is you cancel your holiday next week and you come to work. Now, being a fresh grad, I did. So I canceled my holiday and went to work despite feeling completely and utterly burnt. The second is I have chronic migraines. And we'll go into migraines and neurodiversity in a slight moment, but I have chronic migraines, which means I can be out for 24 to 48 hours and do nothing. Now, unfortunately, I've taken that to my workplace, and often they've said, well, you look fine, so we don't believe you. And that's impacted my mental health. And the most important reason is last year in September, I burnt out so bad that I was on sick leave for 5 weeks. and hospitalized because I wasn't able to go to work. Now, unfortunately, we live in a society where to have a badge of burnout is an accolade, it's an achievement. It's like, oh, you must have worked so hard that now you have totally ruined yourself. And that's what we're here to change. So the first thing I want to go into is a mental health and connectivity. And we're going to start with this because it's important to realize where we are before we start realizing what we can do about it. 1 in 4 of us are suffering from various mental health issues. Over 60% of that is because of the workplace. And 1 of 5 of us are lonely. Now, if any of these results, if anything relates to you, please let me know in the chat. Let me know if there's anything that I'm saying that you're like, actually, I feel this. I'm very open about my mental health struggles, and I always wasn't. I am now. I am because this year I started my own business. I became self-employed. In Jan and Feb, I thought, you know what? The world is my oyster. And then in March, COVID hit. And I remember I lost 75% of my business in March and I had no income in April. I literally curled up in a corner thinking, what has just happened to me? I took it quite bad. In May, I started a podcast called Strategically Winging It to talk about various topics and leadership skill sets, everything from mental health to how to be a successful leader. In the summer, a publisher picked up the podcast and wanted to convert it into a book. And today, not only have I doubled my financial goal, but I'm far more happy because I'm able to coordinate the life that I want to live. Now, this is not to say that you should all quit your job and become self-employed, but this is to say that fundamentally the way that you work is in your hands. The topics that you engage with are in your hands. And I was once super lonely and now I'm not. And so I really want to help you also find both that sense of community and that sense of relaxation. 3 billion people are online and 70% are looking for community. Now, this is so important because at the start of the year, we didn't think we'd still be here. We didn't even think we'd be here. And actually being digitally online, being socially aware, has made it easier for us to find friends, community, and really to focus on what we can do to make our health better. At the same time, we've realized that some people don't have tech and others are burning out just by being online. Let me know in the chat, who is tired of Zoom? Who has Zoom burnout? Who just can't take it anymore? Because I am one of those people. At the beginning of lockdown, you'd like get ready to be online, and now you just kind of show up in any shape or form and you just want to get it over with because it's tiring. Georgia says me. I'm so glad someone agreed with me because I thought I was just saying it and nobody else did. I'm tired of Zoom. I'm tired of being online. What I've started doing is on a Friday night, I turn my phone off and I don't switch it on until Saturday afternoon. I just need a few hours away from my phone and social media. Kara says a lot of the time I don't bother with video anymore, just audio is so much easier. Exactly. If anything, I'm now purposefully putting in just phone calls because I'm like, we don't need to see each other all the time. And that's one way that we can limit burnout and make sure that we're looking after ourselves. It's important to understand that some people won't look like they are not okay. Some people are thriving, surviving, and moving forward. Others look like they're having a great time and just getting on with it and working very hard. But the truth is that it's never really that easy. What we see online, and I want to repeat this and say it very slowly. What we see online is not always the truth. Meaning, and again, what we see online is not always the truth because you are seeing a snapshot of someone's life. If I have posted a picture of me on a beach, it doesn't mean I'm on a beach today. Yesterday, I had a workshop in the Middle East. I said, today I'm in the Middle East. People have literally thought that I've gone traveling to the Middle East for a workshop. It's on Zoom. I haven't been able to go. Last week, I had a 6-day migraine. I had to take the time off. Ironically, it started half an hour before I was doing a workshop for iHorizon on mental health. And so it really worked with the conversation. But the point I'm trying to make is, if we don't look after ourselves, nobody will. If you are in your business and you are not 100%, then your output, your productivity in your business will never be 100%. It's okay to not feel okay. You don't have to look, feel a certain way or be a certain way for you to not be okay. But it's really important that as we approach this festive period, and even if we aren't able to celebrate it the way that we wanted to, that we are able to take some time off and we are able to wind down so that we are our best selves when the new working year begins. I want to touch on mental health slightly and neurodiversity. So neurodiversity is a form. Well, it's the way that your brain works. It means your brain works differently to those who are neurotypical. It means that you have a different, a diverse, a special way of thinking, and that's amazing. So as somebody who suffers from mental health, I have a depth of thinking, but I'm resilient and I have sensory awareness. Last week, my intern told me she was dyslexic, which is amazing, which means that I was able to give her new work to do, assess her details, and allow her to be more visual, give her some techniques to be creative and provide her with the confidence. The reason why I make this point is because she was burning out by pretending that she was okay. She was burning out by taking on tasks that didn't suit her and that didn't align to her way of thinking and her workload. Outside of my entrepreneur lifestyle or my business and social impact company, I run a diversity and inclusion network. So it's really important that we discuss various ways that our brain works in order to curate and create a better way of thinking, of being, of living. It's really important for me to make this workshop as interactive as possible. And though I appreciate that not everybody is comfortable, I'd love to know a little bit about why you joined today. What do you want out of it? Do you want techniques you can start today? Do you just want an honest conversation about feeling crap? Do you want a community where you can vent and just let go? Or do you need reassurance to say, look, we need to slow down and it's okay to slow down? In October, it was my birthday, and every year I focus on making new birthday resolutions. And one of my resolutions was to slow down. Amy says techniques that I can start today, tips of what to do in a stressful moment. Perfect. So let's have that conversation. Amy, if you have a stressful moment, the first and most important thing to remember is to breathe. A great tip that was given to me by somebody who attended one of my workshops was, on a scale of 1 to 10, depending on how stressed you are, take that number of seconds to breathe. So if you are stressed at number 5, I want you to breathe in for 5 seconds, hold for 5, and go out for 5. So let's all try that. Breathe in for 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold for 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And breathe out for 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It is the simplest thing, and by no means am I trying to be patronizing in the way that I've shared that, but sometimes we just forget to breathe. The second thing that I want to share with you is, if you don't know the answer to something, please just say, I don't know. I'll come back to you. That's a great point you've made. Let me look into it further and I will reply back to you in the next 24 hours. Another great tip is have an out of office on all the time. Now, I run a charitable network. We are all volunteers and I run my own business. I am only one person. It's super difficult. And I see some of you have taken extra hobbies, extra work. Some are unemployed. Nina says, you're just fed up existing to go to work to pay the bills. I completely appreciate that. So put an out of office, manage people's expectations. I'll reply back in 72 hours. And if I haven't, please nudge me. It might have gone into spam. The other thing that I want to raise, and by no means do I mean that you are going through this, but if you are, please know that I'm here to support, is if you are just going to work to pay the bills, is that the right workplace for you? I disagree with the concept that we have to work 5 days a week. I fundamentally disagree with the concept that that's all we have to do our whole lives. From the age of 18 to the age of 80, pretty much you're required to work. That's a very long time. And if you are in a job that doesn't entertain you, that doesn't satisfy you, that doesn't make you believe like you are powerful, then that is not the place for you. Sometimes we go through burnout and sometimes we find ourselves feeling rubbish, unsure, not confident, because we are in a place that doesn't, and most importantly, does not satisfy us. Sometimes I have to stop myself consciously from going on social media and looking at what other people are doing, because I start to compare and I start to feel bad. There was research that came out last week saying actually those some of us who are working from home are working longer hours because we feel guilty not for going on our commute. Some of the things that we can try is, if you had a commute, wake up and do that commute. Go outside for that walk. Take a lunch break. Shut your laptop if you can at 5 p.m, 6 p.m. Prioritize your task loads into high, medium, and low, and focus on what you need to do. And most importantly, delegate where you can. It's also very important to recognize your personality style. Sometimes we burn out and we can't switch off because we just have the personality style that isn't catered or isn't working for what we're doing, or the work or the activity that we're doing just doesn't meet how we are as people. So I'd like to ask on this call, where do you think you sit? Red, yellow, green, or blue? Personally, I think I'm a red and a yellow. I've tried to be a blue, I've tried to be a green, but it just doesn't work. What that means is that I like to say yes to things. I have tons of ideas. I tend to start things and not finish them. I jump really quickly into various scenarios and places that I may not even be aware of. Well, that means I have to check myself constantly. I have to remind myself of what the priorities are. I have to stop so that I don't overexert. One of the ways I do that is I have someone who is introverted on my team. I go through them before I make a decision. I ask for their opinion before I go forward. The other is I limit the amount of opportunities I take a month. So for those on the call, where do you sit? And is what you're doing currently catered to the way you're living? So I'll give it a moment. So Kiara says yellow and a bit of green, definitely. Perfect. So how do you think that impacts your day-to-day? Do you find yourself super enthusiastic and motivated by the idea of something new and saying yes to it? And if you're a little bit of green, do you take time to think? Do you share? Do you delegate? Do you work in a team? Or are you not so patient with your approach? Georgia says blue and red. So blue and red, you think of the big picture and you're quite logical. So you want to get things perfect. Is that sense of perfection stopping you from achieving harmony? Is it stopping you from achieving your health? Is it stopping you from achieving a sentiment where you are fundamentally making a difference? Jen says blue, red, and sometimes yellow. So you'd say you're probably more blue and red. If you are of the red, you are strong-willed, you have a drive, you're determined. But what that also means is that your weakness is saying no and keeping yourself to a limit. If you are green, you're patient, you're sharing, you're caring. But what that also means is sometimes you take on too many people's emotions and you're too empathetic. And who knew being too empathetic is a problem? What it is when you're taking on the feelings of other people. Emily, thank you so much. It's great to meet you. For those who do have to jump off, I'm very mindful that, you know, people may have to, and that's cool. Please do connect with me, and most importantly, connect with Iconic offices to go on their virtual tours. I know this recording will be shared afterwards, so please don't kind of, you know, feel like you are missing anything or missing out. But the point we're trying to make here is, if we know where we sit, if we know who we are, if we know where we are going versus what we are doing, it just means that we will be better in understanding what our next steps are. And most importantly, when it comes to this, is also realize your team and the effort around you. Are you trying to have that difficult conversation with someone who is opposite to you? And is that why you're burning out? Are you always on because you're trying to get a client or a business deal and it's not working? I did this post on LinkedIn and I went viral. So let me ask you a question. Who here is having a virtual Christmas party? And what does it look like? I tell you, in the other room, my partner is having 5 in a day, all on Zoom. That's crazy and unnecessary. The reason is, how are we making December work for us? Can we suggest some alternatives so that we aren't zoomed out, so we're not burnt out, so we're focusing on our mental? Can we be in a position where we are not comparing, but collaborating? Last year, the problem was, why are all the holidays revolving around alcohol? This year, it's, why do we have Zoom and team meetings at 6 p.m. when people just want to get on with their life? So here's some alternative ideas that you can start today as a freelancer, as self-employed, as a member of your company. Christmas breakfast with songs. Who doesn't like a little bit of a sing-along in the morning? Gifting colleagues wellness apps such as Audible, Headspace. Virtual reality bingo. Order festive meals to everyone's house and have lunch together. Secret Santa, fancy dress. Donate your time, your funds to charities or not-for-profits, and fun award ceremony for random categories. What we don't need to be doing is revolving festivities around alcohol, celebrating after work hours, and assuming your colleagues want to stay on Zoom the whole day. Zoom burnout is real. How do we switch off? The first thing is, we know our successes of the year. This year has been troublesome and it's been difficult, but at the same time, it's been new, it's been different. Secondly, we can turn off our tech, our social. We can put an outfit office on. We can make sure that we are giving time to our brain to think outside of the internet. I have a really bad habit where I scroll expecting something to update, where I check my profile constantly. The average person checks their phone 28 times in a day. I'm pretty sure mine is like 280. And so I'm not expecting it to be zero, but I'm definitely limiting it so that it gets down. And the last thing, and the most important thing, is try something new. Switching off doesn't just mean chilling and doing nothing. Switching off means giving your brain, your body, your mind a new challenge, a new way to live, fundamentally trying something to see if you can succeed at it. What can you try this month? Is it meditation? Is it 10 minutes of yoga a day, which is what I'm doing? I'm doing yoga with Adrian, 10 minutes a day minimum. Is it going for a walk? Is it just making sure that when you're having dinner, you're just focusing on eating? Is it recycling? Is it donating? Is it sending some messages to your work colleagues to say, I hope you're having a great festive period. I don't expect you to reply at the same time or to constantly be checking your emails, and that's okay. And I love this. I actually added this in when Michelle and I were talking on the phone just before this conversation started. Check yourself. You have to check yourself. You can join these conversations, you can join the discussions, you can definitely get involved, but fundamentally, no one can stop and no one can create change like you can. Bring a bit of self-awareness and check yourself. Are you on your phone too long? Are you drinking too much coffee? Have you been sitting down in your chair? Every time your mind tends to drift away, which mine does very often, I use that opportunity to get up and to go on a short walk, even if it's around my house. I make sure I have one program that I'm watching on Netflix, which is just mine, of which I use no phone or social media, and I just focus. I have at least one great cup of tea a day. And I keep myself sane by knowing that if I'm not 100%, then how will someone else be? How will my work be? How will my business be? And I'm mindful of time. This is the last slide. So things to consider and things you can do today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with number 6. The rest you can take on board and do in your own time. Encourage inclusive community socials. 7, check in on your work from home colleagues and mental health. This doesn't have to be via video. It can just be a phone call to say, how are you doing? What's going on? 8, celebrate your weekly successes during your stand-ups. Burning out also means not giving yourself credit of all the great things you're doing and successes. Switching off means also switching on the acknowledging, the acknowledgement, the consideration, the celebration of all the great things you've done. 9, go for a walk or run. 10, make the most of your health insurance. A lot of people don't really appreciate. On their health insurance, they have therapy, they have information, they have contacts. Use it. Have those discussions. Don't be afraid to talk to someone and to share your opinions with those who can truly transform your mind, your shift, your emotions. It's nothing to be afraid of. And I know, coming from a South Asian background, often therapy is looked down upon, but we need to start coordinating our mind, our emotions, our world. 11, switch off all digital devices for half a day. Do it. I tell you, it's life-changing. 12 is to consider Christmas events. We've spoken about that. And lastly, most importantly, is to take a day off. Now, a day off means doing what you want to do. Take that day off. Sing that song, jump in the shower, go for a walk, run in the rain. Surround yourself with good people. Take that chance, make that phone call, send that text, watch that show, bake that cake. Switching off to switching on doesn't mean that you have to stop what you're doing. It just means you have to coordinate what you're doing to ensure that your mind, your body, your soul is working together, that they're collaborating so that you are the best version of yourself that you can be. And consider that this month is a month of celebration, a month of honesty, a month of authenticity, and a month of us just taking a breath and saying, we've had a long year. We want to take some of that power back into our hands and end the year on a high, knowing that we did as much as we could. We achieved what we could. We're still here. We're thriving. And most importantly, we're going to be the best versions of ourselves that we can be. We always leave some time at the end for questions. So this is your time. We won't keep you longer than you have to, because I also appreciate being online is difficult. But if you have any questions, if you have any thoughts, please, again, use the chat function. I'm here for you. I'm here to make things work and to make things easy. You're definitely not alone. The last thing I'm going to leave you with and ask you is, what is the one thing you're going to pledge to yourself? And I want you to write it in the chat. What is the one thing you're going to do today that's going to take you into the new year in health, wealth, and happiness? One thing. It could be small, it could be big, but you have to say it out in the open, even to strangers at the internet. And you have to acknowledge that you're going to create that change. I wish you such a success in the new year. I wish you happiness and health in December. And I truly hope that we can use this time to unwind. And if I want to leave you with one thing, it's okay to give yourself time. It's okay to stop. It's okay to breathe. It's completely okay to say, I just want to do nothing, or I want to do something different. We live in a society where there's too much emphasis on always being on. And the problem is that, like everything, you need to recharge your batteries. A great analogy is you won't let your phone die and get to 0% charge. Why would you do that to yourself? Thank you so much for inviting me. This is the third event I've done with Iconic Offices, and I've absolutely loved it, and I can't wait to work with you all in 2021. I'm going to kind of end the conversation here. I think there's a lot of food for thought. And what I am offering is, if anyone is wanting more advice or more information, please connect with me. I've shared all my details. At the same time, if you are currently in a place where you are losing your job, you're going through a redundancy, or you're needing extra support, I'm offering 6 free LinkedIn profile and CV auditing masterclasses for those who are going through that. So I'll send that around by email too. But equally, I just want to make sure that you know, switching off to switch on doesn't just mean us doing nothing. It means us being proactive in making sure that we prioritize our health mentally and physically and emotionally, so that we are the best versions of ourselves. So thank you so much again. Have a great rest of your day. And please do connect with me on socials, and let's keep in touch.